Hello, everybody. Jeff Mason and Mark Mittendorf coming to you, SimpleBiz360 podcast. Welcome, everybody. And Mark, thank you so much for coming in today, and we're glad to have you. Why don't you just tell the listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself, if you could?
I am the ripe old age of 62. I met Jeff, what was it, been about 6 months ago?
Yep.
6 months ago at church. Grew up in South County area. And met my wife. She's from Indiana. She moved up to St. Louis. We got married and moved out to St. Charles. And we have been in St. Charles for, I'm terrible at years, probably 26 years.
Okay.
26 years.
Wow. Great. Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'm really excited about this today, guys. And before we get to the show, just in case, if you want to subscribe to the show, if you're a fan or you've just tuning in or you want to subscribe and you haven't, you can just go in your lower right-hand portion of the screen. There's a little icon there, the pinwheel. You can hover over that. That'll take you to YouTube. You can sign up on YouTube. You do have to be signed into YouTube to do it. And then you can also, any one of the 27 listening channels, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart, you name it, on down the line. We're on those platforms, and you can listen there as well. So one of your friends who may want to listen, you can tune in there. And we're also on Rumble most recently, too, so you can catch us there as well. So we are coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri, as we always do, Half Coast Studios. Dietz and Matt are behind the glass working the boards, and we have had a very, very interesting afternoon. We've had a lot of wiring and computer things and checks and changes, and we are running on we're running on all cylinders now. We're up and going. But Mark and I just had an opportunity, because we're the same age, to just kind of before we started, chat about some old cartoon jingles, which we were getting a kick out of from when we were kids in the 60s. So anyway, we're just two crusty old guys coming to you today. Going to have some fun. One. So, at any rate, we are going to, so just a little elaboration. Mark is the subject of podcast number 71 called 6-Point Punch. And it was in a series of conversations I had with you where I really came to realize, wow, could business be this simple? Could it really be this easy? Because Mark has a success story that is very intriguing. So I put it on tape, that show, and then we said, you know what? We need to have you on. So 20 episodes later, we have Mark on to talk about it and share a little bit about it. So it's going to be exciting today. We have an entrepreneur in Mark Mittendorf and got a exciting lens to which, we'll see entrepreneurship through today. So anyway, so where did you grow up? Are you from the Missouri area?
Right. I grew up south, and because of the prices of the real estate was a lot less in St. Charles when we were getting married, it just made more sense to come out this way. And now we've been out here so long, it's home.
Okay.
We've been out here quite some time now.
Okay. So in St. Louis, you were South County. You were what they call South County in St. Louis area. Right. So South, and where we are right now in St. Charles County is on the western suburbs of St. Charles, or of St. Louis, Missouri, rather. So now, so growing up as a kid, I mean, what were your interests as a young kid when you were, seventh, eighth grade in high school? What was going on?
I had a desire to. I thought at the time to be in some form of the art industry, commercial artist or something along those lines. And I did have talent, and I still do, but I didn't pursue it as much as I should. But my parents enrolled me into a correspondence art instruction school. So that was one of my interests when I was younger, was art. And my dad did a lot of home repairs around the house himself. So if you knew how we were brought up, we kind of worked with our parents doing what they did. We worked alongside of them. Yeah. And I learned a lot of things. At the time, I didn't think I would really, take advantage of the situation my dad was putting me into by teaching me. But later on in life, I'm glad that he took the time to explain things to me the way he did.
Well, good. So you recall kind of had a creative vein to you. I mean, whether
Right.
it was, commercial.
Mhm.
So when you say artist, was it kind of, were you envisioning being a painter or being or one more?
No, I was at my age. It was drawing pictures,
Okay.
illustrations, things like that. But as far as painting homes and
Yeah.
things like that, furniture, things like that, that wasn't it. But
Yeah.
I can see my love for art at an early age. I'm using it now in what I do.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
Do you still doodle? I mean, just draw pictures and stuff?
not really.
Okay.
I don't, but I guess I use my talent in more of what I do in my business. More with woodworking, more with painting. Painting walls is one thing, but there's an art to painting things right. So, anyway, yeah, I didn't see it turning to painting as what I do now at my early age, but you never know what's
Yeah.
going to happen later on in life.
Well, we just had an artist a couple episodes ago. Ed Phillips had he's an artist now, and he was an artist up until he was 30, but he put that skill set on mothballs for 35 years, which is just incredible. And just recently picked it up, and so it's just when you have it, you have it. It's
Right.
but just still that creativity. I think even in this space, doing podcasts and the team, Matt and Dietz, they have creativity when it comes to what they do. Their college education was, my creativity in programming a show, putting it together. We all have ways of expressing it, and you own a business that runs that does a lot of different contractual work with homeowners, and so you get to put that creative vein to work. Well. So in kind of, and we're going to kind of dive into something here that is going to be a little different for us on a podcast, but we'll get there in a minute. But before that, your dad, you said, was kind of setting the tone, doing a lot of home repairs. You didn't always learn from him the way, maybe if you could rewind the clock now and you had a chance to do it over, you would learn more from that. But still, didn't that seeing your dad do that and take that independent role, did that help you in eventually becoming an entrepreneur, knowing what your dad did?
Definitely, because he would get into situations that he would not run into before. And he would look at whatever situation that might be or whatever he was fixing and look at it in a way. And most of the time, by looking at it and observing and seeing how everything interacted with each other, he could usually fix things.
Yeah.
And there's an art to that.
Right.
I mean, to objectively looking at something and then finding out a way to come to a solution on it.
And listen, I got a story firsthand. I saw that in action with me, as you know. So I know firsthand what you're capable of. So Mark, I'm gonna dive into a series of questions here, and folks out there and listening and viewing land, I just want to say Mark's got a great, tremendous entrepreneurial story that I can't wait to unfold and flush out for you. But almost equally important, there is a story here that Mark and I both share together that we want to make sure we talk a little bit about today. And it's been a tough year and a half for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are gripped with fear. There's a lot of people that have a lot of uncertainty right now about life, and there's a lot of questions going on in a lot of minds. I know I'm saying a lot, so sorry about that. But we're just in a unique season of time here where people are scared, people are fearful, and I want to take them back in your story to go back into the 70s when you were in high school and when I was in high school. You graduated in 1977.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated high school in 1976, and we both have a very common thread. I call it the plunge. Can you talk a little bit about your life story? What happened in this plunge with you?
Well, I would say around the age of 14 or 15, I started hanging out with friends of mine at the time. And in school, you were categorized as either what we called it a jock or a burnout. And the path that I guess I chose was the burnout. And started getting into different temptations of drugs and things like that. And it just, one thing led to another. Just as the sense of being high, the different ways you could get high, just what you could use to get high. It was, if you weren't doing it, you were trying to find it so you could do it. And I mean, you, whatever somebody would have, you would try. And it just continued on through high school, out of high school, to the point where, I had a full-time job. But the addictions, they didn't stop. So when you have an addiction and you can supply it with a good income, that's just a disaster waiting to happen. So I met my first wife and got married, and we continued to drug, and the marriage wasn't good, and I knew it wasn't good before we even got married, and it just escalated and got worse to the point where the addictions got worse. And I had to make a choice in my life about my own health because I went into rehab for 30 days away from my home. And when I came back, I had been sheltered for a month and no temptations have been around me. But when I came home, I forgot that my wife didn't have that sheltering that I had had for a month. And it was just a matter of weeks that I came home, and she had gotten some form of drug. It probably was cocaine. And I made a decision then, the most selfish decision that I could have made, but it was what I had to do, and we ended up getting a divorce. And at the age of 35, I found myself living with a coworker with 2 dogs in his basement. So I had my pity party going on right around then.
So that's your plunge. So very similar to you. And again, we're going to just touch on something here. It's a little bit hard, but there's my situation was, I started drinking. I flirted with drinking at age 14, and my drinking escalated. My drug taking escalated. I was involved in a wide variety of drug use, and I had my mainstay that I worked with on a routine basis, and alcohol was always there, and it was easy to get, and next thing you know, 1 year leads to another, 1 year leads to another, and much like you, I was able somehow to take this addiction and still get through college, and I ended up getting into the work world and in the Wall Street area of New York City. But when you're addicted to stuff and alcohol and drugs, what you find is you wake up every morning, and I don't know if this was the case with you, but up until the age of 29, every single morning when I woke up, regardless of what year it was, between age 15 and 29, the first thought that's running through my head that morning is, where am I going to score my high today? Where am I going to go? Who am I going to tap? Who am I going to network with? How am I going to get it? What are my resources? Where? How? And that's all that consumed me. And it's a sad thing when you're 29 years old and you got a daughter, newborn, and you're sitting there in bed going, I can't believe at 29 years old I'm thinking of this. And, you went through rehab. I know there's part 2 to your story, which I'm going to get to, and there's part 2 to my story too. But the very similar thing is, you walked around till you were 34 years old with this. I walked around till I was 29 with this. But that's how encompassing addiction is. And if you're out there listening and you're struggling with any form of addiction right now, please hang on to this episode, because I want you to hear what we're going to talk about part B, because there's a part B to your story that took place. Tell the audience what happened next and what eventually led you here.
Well, I worked for a company, and somebody told me that he thought that they were watching me. So I went to them, told them that I did have a drug addiction, and because I went to them, I was able to be put into rehab. Had I not gone to them first and been found out about it, I would have lost my job. So thank thank God that I had enough sense still left in my head that I knew when I had to deal with the problem that I had been carrying for years and years. So I worked for this company, and they vendored the whole operation to another company. And basically the only thing that changed was where the paycheck was coming from. The whole operation was moved, and we didn't miss a beat. It was it was running 24 hours a day, 24/7. So anyway, ended up getting a different job from there. And they were I worked in a vinyl window distributor. And when I got there, the place was in disarray. They couldn't keep any experience with the technicians, and they hired me to revamp the place. Well, I was there 7 years, and the place was running very, very well. And this was a time when the housing market was booming at that time also. At that time, I found out that one of my technicians, my window technicians, had a drug addiction himself. So I remembered where I came from. So I worked with him and got him checked into a place where he was monitored every day, and I monitored him every day. And to make a long story short, when the people who owned the company found out that I didn't immediately fire him, they came up and they immediately fired me. So there I was, without a job, not knowing where my next move was going to be. As it turns out, as I looked through the want ads, which is what it was at that time, it wasn't as high tech as now, I realized that I was not going to be making the money that I was at the place that I was let go from. So I put it in God's hands, and I started working for myself based on what my dad had taught me and just the good head on my shoulders that the Lord had given me. And I started working on my own, and it wasn't easy at first. I didn't know where I was going to end up, but I had to put all my faith and my trust in God, and He never let me down. I started my business probably about 16 years ago, 17 years ago, and the Lord has just blessed me ever since. I've never worried where the next customer or the next bill will be able to be paid, and He took care of me. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, now in line with this transition, thank you so much for sharing that. In line with this transition, you've asked for help. You've gone to, you went to a rehab center. You're in this situation where you're obviously trying to help this young man, and you're doing the right thing, but you get penalized in essence for it, which really turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Now, as all this is happening, Mark Mittendorf is still involved in, are you still drinking at all? Are you still doing any drugs whatsoever?
No, I never had a problem with drinking. It was never per se my drug of choice. Alcohol was not, and it was the drugs that were my demise. But I stopped all the illicit drugs, if you will, and the only thing that I carried with me was smoking pot. And some people might say, well, only, but it was.
Yeah.
And I carried that, and I justified it, and I, got married. I have a nice home. I have a good job, and I justified it for the longest time until I got closer to God, and my walk with God got closer and closer to the point where I couldn't do that to God anymore. I couldn't use any illegal drugs or anything that would cloud my mind. And I decided at that time that was it for me. And I thought it would be harder than it was when it was taken away from me, but God can do many things. And He just took all the temptations and everything away, when I decided to do that.
Awesome. So you now have this relationship, and you realize it's blocking you from having a
Right.
better relationship, and you end that now. But you're still you still hung on to smoking the weed a little bit here and
Right.
there. Okay, so let's just pause that story for a second and pick up mine. So, in what age is this when you finally stop pot? I mean,
Oh, I would say 50.
okay. So at 29 years old, my story, right? So now I'm not taking a lot of the illicit drugs anymore. I'm putting a suit on every day, taking a train into the city, trying to work my way up. And at this point now, I'm in a new company. I'm working out of my house, and I'm in southern New Jersey, and I'm not doing those illicit drugs, but I'm still drinking quite heavily. And all of a sudden, I go into a Christmas Eve service, and I walk out differently because I surrender to the Lord at that point, and I give my addiction over to, or I just give my life over to God. And as a result, I think the stubbornness in me is God, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that what happened then to me was God said, okay, you're a pretty stubborn cat. Here's what the deal is. I'm going to take this away from you so you can never deny the fact that the desire for you to drink was removed by me. And I could always tell that story. And I'm a firm believer of that. So, we each had, you asked for help. You reached out for help at a rehab center. You got the help. It got you on the straight and narrow. You still hung on to pot. I asked for help. I surrendered. I went to the Lord for help. And, I stopped cold turkey because I'm the type of guy that if I was to take a hit or to smoke a joint today,
Right.
I have no idea where it would go. I don't want to find out. I just don't want to. But here's the important thing we wanted to get across to you today in telling this story is however you do it, please, please, please ask for help. If you're out there and you're listening to this and you're lonely and you're depressed, you're scared, you're built, your fear is pent up in you, you don't know what to expect out of this crazy COVID life we've lived, this turmoil in the United States, this turmoil across the world. We don't know where we're going, what's happening, all these uncertainties. Reach out for help. There are people out there in the professional community that can help you. There are churches that can help you. There are people that are devoting their life to helping folks. We realize there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of suicide. There's a lot of drug addiction. There's a lot of just so many things. There's a lot of addictions going on today because of COVID. So please, we just want to encourage you. If you're listening, will you please humble yourself to reach out for help? People want to help. If you don't know where to turn and you just listen to the show, and you could be anywhere and you need some kind of help, email us through the show. You can find us SimpleBiz360.com, Jeff at SimpleBiz360.com. Please reach out to us. We'll try our best to get you connected with somebody who can help.
All I can say is don't be ashamed of your addiction, because we all were. We felt like we were worthless, but, it's not like one day we all woke up and said, I think when I grow up, I'm going to be an addict. It happens. It happens to some of the best people we know, but it isn't over. So, there's hope out there. If we can do it, you can do it. So
yeah, absolutely, Mark. Great advice. And folks, we just want to make sure we touch on that because we come from that, and we were able, thank goodness and thank the Lord, to be able to come out of it and get ourselves back on a better track. And that's where I want to tell you about Mark and what fascinated me about his business story is. So I guess really the crux of it was we had an issue at our home, and we knew Mark was a contractor. We had an issue at our home, and we said, Mark, could you come over and take a look at it? It was just involved a back porch light. It was just a screwy little issue with this back porch light that it's falling off our house, and it's just crazy. So he said, yeah, I'll come over, man. No problem. So he comes over, and I watch this man tackle this problem, get up on the ladder, and make a long story short, chin rubbed his way, looked at it, angles. No one's been able to figure this out. Well, let's go back to the truck. I think I got a solution. We go back to the truck. I try something. No, that wasn't it. More chin rubbing, more leaning, more. I think I got it. Let's go back to the truck. Gets everything, and in the process, I watch. His drill battery runs out, and no problem. I got another set back here to. I'm looking at his truck. There's like everything under the sun in this truck. It's like a driving Home Depot. I'm like, holy smokes. So, and I'm watching this. He gets back up on a ladder. It's now twilight and nighttime, and boom, boom. I think, I think I'm going to do this and that, and then I'm going to go here. And he's talking, telling me through. I'm like, Mark, I don't even know what you're telling me. But
I always talk to myself.
He's telling me what he's doing. Long story short, I watch this guy think through this thing, and with a drill hole and a screw, he fixes our problem. But it had to be strategically placed. It's hard to explain, but it had to be strategically placed. So as a result, I'm like, Mark, this is fascinating. You thought through that. You stuck with it. You had all your tools in the back. I mean, dude, what makes you tick? I mean, how did you start your company? What's your company like? And he goes on to tell me the following, and this is what episode 71 was about. And I'm going to read this. Well, Jeff, it's kind of easy, and I'm paraphrasing, but I want you to flesh this out. God's my CEO, and just, I report to him, and that's who I do everything for. I'm just always, I'm always truthful. I'm always honest, right? I always tell people, the truth. I'm always dependable. I always show up, and, I always, am there. I treat every situation like it was my own house, so I say to everybody, I'm going to fix this or do this or paint this or modify this or, remodel this the same way I would do my own house. So just know that. I'm always talking to you like he was talking to me on the ladder, telling me he thinks he's talking to himself, but he's talking to me, right? He's telling me what's going on. So, Jeff, I always communicate to my customers and just tell them what I'm doing. Hey, I think I'm going to save you money here. And he gives me an example. If we do this and that and this, or else you could go this direction and spend more money, but here's what I think you should do. And so he goes through all those things, and then this creativity and thinking, and I go, wow, okay, Mark, wow, okay. So do you do any advertising? And listen to this line. I said, you do any advertising or you market your company at all? What's the name of your company? He goes, Jeff, I've never had to market myself the whole time I've been in business. I've had a full plate since day one. I said, how is that? Well, pretty much because what I just told you, how I run my company. It's because of that. So talk about this, because what was fascinating to me is we all sit here and try to figure out how to get more business, do this, and you did you have a 6-pronged approach. I call it the 6-point punch to Mark Mittendorf's business. And dude, you've never had to go out and hunt down business.
No, all of my work has been referral.
Unbelievable.
And probably 70% of my customers come back to me for whatever they might need. And I think why I'm successful is because people know who I am and they trust me. I think first and foremost, above everything, first is they have to trust you. And once you have their trust and they're comfortable being around you, they're going to confide in you. I've had people also know that 10 minutes after I walk into the door it could be a new customer, they know that I have a relationship with God. They know that because I'm very
open about it.
Open about it, right. And I play my Christian music, and everything that I do is out of full respect of the customer. So after I'm there a few minutes, they know I know the Lord, and I carry myself throughout the entire repair or day or however it may be to reflect what God would have me to be. And it's simple, but it works. If they trust you, they trust you. If you don't, I say this in everything in life, if you don't have trust, you don't have anything. If you can't have trust with someone or some reason, you're never going to be able to build on anything. So that is what I got out of it. I do things. I give them options. I tell them how and why I'm going to do something. And most of the time, the people, I ask them, I said, you really don't care that I'm explaining this to you? And they say no, but they're very pleased that I am taking the time to explain it to them. So it's, in a nutshell, it's out of respect and trust. And, if it comes down to scripture also, you wouldn't do to your neighbor if you wouldn't do it to yourself. I mean, there's so many things. If you just put God at the top of your 6-punch list, everything else will fall in place.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we're all about simplicity here. Obviously, the name of my company is SimpleBiz360, and we're looking at ways to simplify things. And when I heard this, it was so overwhelmingly simple, straightforward, no fluff, but so much meat. So much meat there, because you're just doing things the right way, and you're treating people the way you would want to be treated yourself. You're right. Doing things the way you would want people to do them to you. And I just think it's again, we're out there, and I think that message, folks, and it's not it's not to get overly religious at all. It's just to say that that's how Mark realized that he owes everything to God, and that's who his CEO is. But I mean, the other tenets are things that even if you're not out there in a Christ follower or anything like that, you can still grab on to this simplicity of, if you can just be truthful, always be dependable, talk to your customers, walk them through it, just think. I mean, I think in society today, tell me if I'm off base here, but aren't we just so programmed to listen to the news and listen to other voices to tell us how to think, that we're kind of forgetting how to think
right.
real well? Mm-hmm. And I watched you in action. It was great.
Well, you're forced to you're put in positions where you have to make a decision. You have to come to a conclusion. And what I've also learned in my walk with the Lord is He's given me much patience. And to do what I do in the industry that I do, you need patience, because most of the time things don't go as you hope, and you have to react accordingly then.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that impressed me, and it wasn't on your 6-point punch list, and this is probably going to be a tremendous value to anybody listening, but your level of preparedness in that truck was everything under the sun. And when I was peeking around when I asked you about it, and you said, well, I try to be prepared for every scenario. I try to have everything there for every possible scenario. Now, I believe you told me that on any given day, most of the time, you have 3 power tool battery packs, so that if one goes out, you have another one, and you obviously remember how to recharge them, so on and so forth. But here's what I found fascinating, folks. And whether you're a contractor, whether you're a graphic artist, whether you're a book publisher, an executive, you work, in the fields, whatever you do, I think this was a great lesson that salesman, whoever you are, that you realize that there are common elements that you use on a daily basis. Certain washers, certain nuts, certain nails, certain fasteners, certain glue types, certain things, certain tools, and that you have that in that truck, so that if you're on a site on a job and you hit a scenario that through creative thinking you've got to solve this way as opposed to that way, you've got everything at your disposal. And I think so many of us in the business world, and I'm not trying to throw stones at the contracting world, but so many times that we've hired contractors, and I'm sorry to say this, but as a consumer who's buying a contracting service, I get tired when I hear I don't have this type of screw, and I'm like, isn't that type of screw like basic? And yeah, well, why don't you have like 36 of them in your truck? You know what I mean? I don't understand.
There's very few things that I've encountered that I didn't have what I needed. There are exceptions, but you just learn through your the tasks that you go in and day out. What is a common, like you're saying, a common set of screws, or you just have a lot of everything. And the important thing is you have to know where everything is that you have. If you have a lot of stuff and don't know where it is and it's all scattered, then you're never going to be able to resolve the situation.
Yeah, I mean, it just what a lesson. And again, I'm not knocking contractors. My wife worked in a medical billing facility that I couldn't tell you how many times in 5 years I would hear her say, "Yeah, we ran out of copier paper today." Whoa, wait a minute. What? We ran out of copier paper. There's like 16 of you that work there. You've got an Office Depot down the road. How do you run out of copier paper?
Right.
You tell me that. And I just, when she came to work for me, I said, "Hon, I tell you what, look in your closet because you got a whole box of paper there. You'll never run." We've never run out at my company, by the way. Never. I can't believe it. But this is just what happens, and it's just the preparedness that you showed me that you had. First of all, it's your time. You're in the field, right? You need something.
Right.
You go to your truck, chances are 98% of the time you have it. So you don't have to stop what you're doing, take a diversion, go get it, look, hunt, peck,
Right.
pay, come back, and you're focused, and I put this up today. I put this mural up today. Appreciate and focus. You are a focus, and you appreciate customers.
Yes.
You appreciate God, but you appreciate customers, and you show them that. And dude, you deliver. And why is 70% of your business for 16 years? I thought it was 14, but 16 years. Why is 70% of your business repeat business? Because he delivers.
Because I can take care of people when
Yeah.
they need it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. And so, Mark, it's just an awesome story because so many of us come from these lands, corporate lands of pontificatory, solutions and processes and methods and, tree branches worth of do this and do that to get where you're going. And here's Mark Mittendorf doing 6 basic things as an entrepreneur, never looked for work in 16 years.
I've got too much work. I mean, if there is such a thing, I wish I could sell it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it won't work that way for everybody. I realize that it won't, but I mean, what a testament. I'll shift gears for a second, and I'll tell you, this guy right behind the wall here, Dietz, who owns Half Coast Studios, same exact thing. I mean, I've never, we had a situation last night, and I forget what it was, but he texted me late at night or something. I said, "Dude," and this is God's honest truth. You can tell you. I said, "Dude, I'm going to tell you, don't ever worry about asking me that question again, because I know beyond 110% that anything you're doing for me, you're trying to do it for the betterment of my company and the betterment of your company. So I would never question what," but and he was kind enough to ask me in advance of doing it. But I said, "Dude, you do what you need to do, and I will never question." But it's that type of, over time, he's shown me that he is so trusted, just like your customers trust you. That I know now, there's nothing, nothing's going to happen that's shady here. This guy's looking out for me and trying to do something good. So I think that message. Companies that can do that, people that can do that, you're giving your customers such a comfort level that, your customers want to tell more people about you. I've told a ton of people about Dietz and Half Coast, and there's some folks that are coming his way because of it. And you just, right? Isn't that the greatest way to do business? Get referrals like that?
It's the easiest and the best.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend money on advertising. And because Dietz, what he's capable of, and you trust him, so you don't worry. And that's exactly what my customers need to have for me to be successful.
Bingo. And Mark, it's not, that I realize that, we're not, this is nothing new under the sun, really, what we're talking about. It's just kind of taking the hammer and taking the nail again and letting you see that, the nail can be pounded in this way. And we're just kind of reminding you that there are these options out there. I mean, I've been around way too many companies that think all the solutions are these crazy, whipped up, cooped up lies and bend the truth and stretch the truth and go down all these, meandering trails of deceit and this, that, the other, just to get to the same endpoint you get to.
Right.
And it doesn't need to be that way.
You can save a lot of trouble.
Yes. And and the customers love it. And guys, today in this world of nefariousness and all the lies and kabuki theater and, whatever is, it's just so much crap out there. Excuse my language. But, isn't it? It's almost like refreshing to find somebody that does the business the way you do and Dietz does. It's just, you know, it's like, wow, really truthful, honest, dependable. They talk to me. They do what they, wow. You know what I mean? It's just crazy.
It makes a difference. I mean, it really does, because people talk. I can't tell you how many people have referred from one other person who've referred from another person, and something I'm doing is right, and they're inviting me back. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, so let me ask you. You're you know, you're this creative guy. This draw. You know, you did drawings and illustrations, and now you're in this, you know, creativity capacity where you do all these, you know, different remodelings. This, that. What is your favorite job to tackle? I mean, what is it?
I think it's changed, because as I've gotten older, I love to paint, but as I've gotten older, my body has gotten older, and so now I think painting is got to be one of my favorites. Two reasons: because I'm getting older, and it's very therapeutic to me. Now, a lot of people would not look at painting as being therapeutic, but I do. But in the same sense, I love to use my creativity. I built an enormous conference table for our pastor's wife, and it turned out great. And I'm rewarded in a different way by doing something like that. And that's what's nice about what I do, is no 2 days usually are the same, and it's a challenge every day.
Yeah.
So.
Well, cool. Now, you mentioned earlier on, which I thought was interesting. I'm going to have you flesh this out. You said that, you know, painting was an art form, and commercial painting walls, you know, there's an art to it. So, and so you find this therapeutic. I don't know if I'm accurate in this. I should have checked the poll before I came, but I would imagine a lot of homeowners do not find painting therapeutic. No. How do you find it? What's the method there? Everybody's
got a gift, I believe. And, I guess painting is mine. People are amused by how I paint and how much I enjoy, because I don't think most people like to paint. So when somebody enjoys it as much as I do, and I guess it just it amazes some people.
Wow. So and is it and what is the art form behind it? I mean, is there any tips you can give to these homeowners out there who are trying or taking a stab at it?
Don't use blue tape.
Seriously,
everybody a house I've gone to and they've attempted to paint, they've used blue tape. That's just my opinion, but again, I'm the one who's been gifted of being able to paint a straight line. So it's paint. I mean, if you mess it up, you can paint over it. So it's just trial and error. The more you do anything, the better you get it.
Okay. So that's very interesting. So what is the most challenging? Like, what's the one job you've done that you wish you could do over? Is there any job you've done you wish you could do over?
You know, I pay a lot of attention to details. So it's just the way I'm built. And you always go through some jobs, and after you're through with it, you see a way that maybe you could have done it differently. But what I tell people is, because I take so much pride in what I do, you're going to get the same quality of job of somebody who does it day in and day out. It just might take me a little longer. When I was younger and I would interview for jobs, and all I had was a high school diploma to take with me. So I had to sell myself when I went into interviews. And my angle was, you can teach me how to run a machine. You can teach me how to press a button. You can teach me all these things, but you can't teach me to have the right attitude. You can't teach me to work hard. You can't teach me to be honest. You can't teach me any of those things. So I guess I said the right things, because I had I wasn't one. I stuck at jobs most of my life where I was at. So I had to sell myself, and it worked me into some of them.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, there's always things we look at and we wish we maybe had another shot at it. But you know what? If you're taking the diligence and doing the special care in it, you know what? It may have taken you longer, but you're still, you're still happy with what the effort you gave it. And to your point, I think that having that mindset going into any job, saying that I'm just willing to, be taught anything, be humble enough to be taught anything, and work hard. I think that's a great message for anybody growing up in whatever capacity they want to go into. We see a lot of home repair shows and renovation shows. It's kind of a popular thing now, and it sets people, it really gets people excited. I know it, gets us excited too. I can't do anything. I'm a duct tape guy, but I notice a lot of people get involved in jobs and then they realize once they've got in, they're way over their head and they've got to call in specialists. And you have been called in on a couple of those save jobs, CPR jobs. What if you could give sage advice to homeowners on what not to do to get in that pickle? Do you have anything you could tell them?
It's usually easier. It looks easier than it actually is. And ask questions before you take a plunge. The DIY shows that are on TV make everything look really simple, and it's not always that way. You can ask many of my customers. They get to a place and then they call me, but I encourage them to try things on their own and try and explain things so that they will try things on their own. Because again, life is not about my job. It's about helping people and opening the eyes to people, helping people. The DIY shows, they're helpful, but they're misleading a lot of times.
Well, they're inspiring. I guess the way my wife and I look at it, it's inspiring, but it's not. Doesn't drive me to pick up tools. I'll call the specialist. But it is. But great advice. It looks easier than it actually is. And I think that's, there's even one show where a woman comes in and saves the jobs,
Right.
And it's kind of a cool show, but format. When you think about your career and you think about being an entrepreneur, is there any one singular best piece of advice you could give folks out there who are entrepreneurs or thinking about being them? What would you say if you could say anything?
Treat people the way you would like to be treated. And don't cut people short. I mean, they want to learn. They just don't know where to learn. So if you can, try things on your own and see what the risk factor is in it and start small and get bigger with what you do. But there's people out there that will definitely help you out. Again, I encourage all my customers to do things on their own, because it's a self-worth that you can gain by learning how to do things, whatever field it may be in. But it's just an encouragement to people in general. And again, it goes back to my walk with the Lord. I mean, we're here to help people in any way we can. So in my business, I help them the way I do. In Jeff's business, he helps them the way he does. But if everybody had that attitude, it wouldn't be such a bad place to be.
Well, great advice. Thank you for that. What makes you tick today? What gets you out of bed today? And what motivates you? You're always a very upbeat guy.
To go to work, just teaching people what there is to remodeling or whatever I might do. My wife and I, we don't have any children, so I try to pass on what I've learned from my parents to customers, children that are not my own biologically. So you just try and help people. And why am I successful? Because God's behind me. That is totally why I'm successful, is because I do everything the way God would have me to do it. It's simple, but it's the truth.
Well, I've been straightforward and honest, and thank you. And is there anything I forgot to ask you that you is on your mind, you want to say, or you thought about, or?
No. Maybe, Mark, when are you going to retire? No.
Well, I've asked you that plenty of times. Is your wife asking you that?
No.
Yeah.
I say this often, and I say there's good and bad in everything. And in my job and in my business is no different. You know, some people have to totally quit their job when they retire, but I have the luxury of being able to work from 5 days to 4 days to 3 days.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'll ever totally stop.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, you look good in that shirt, which looks very relaxing. You need to be at the beach, and very, very cool. And listen, it's so amazing to get to know you, and just it's so refreshing to see that that success sometimes is found in the simple, and it really is. And it we overcomplicate things, and you are a walking, living, breathing story that says, you know what, you don't have to overcomplicate things, and as long as you have your priorities right, good things come to those who put their priorities right. So, now I must tell everyone here, this is another cool connection. Mark and I, we met and we're like, dude, it's so easy to talk to you, and we got so many commonalities, we got so many similarities, and blah blah blah. So we're hanging out a couple weeks ago, and I go, oh man, I forgot to pick up something at Walgreens. You want to take a drive with me? He said, yeah, sure, I'll take a drive with you. So we hop in the car, we go driving. And so we're rocking. I'm a rock and roll. He's a rock and roller, man. He played the trumpet in high school, I believe it was. Right. Yeah. And, but you're into the same rock and roll genre that I am. And so, anyway, we're talking about bands. We're driving along talking about bands. And, it gets to, he's talking about some bands. I'm going, these are like synthesizer type bands. This is like Genesis and Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer territory, So I take a stab at it. I go, hey, did you ever hear a band called Triumvirate? And you should have seen the eyeballs get the size of silver dollars. He turns around in the car. I was like, what? I've never run into anybody that knows that band name. Oh my gosh. And I think I told you about a high school buddy of mine. He lives in Australia, Gordon Manzio, and he listened to it because we put Triumvirate as one of our Lost in the Shuffle tracks at the end of the show. We put the whole album, Spartacus, on there. And he commented, he goes, well, how did I never know about these guys? So here we are in his car to Walgreens, and you're telling me I've never found anybody that has heard of these guys.
And that's the truth. Nobody.
And so that's how kind of we're on the same thing. Yeah. Isn't it great? Guys, you got to go back. I think it's like episode 13 or something. Triumvirate, Spartacus. They're out of Germany. 3 guys. Oh, my gosh. It's like a 45-minute album, but it is so cool. So check it out. But, we gave you the opportunity to pick your Lost in the Shuffle track, and you picked a gem dandy, I tell you what. And I was not familiar with it, which I find odd for me, but not odd. I've run into a couple. Tell us, what is your Lost in the Shuffle track?
My Lost in the Shuffle track is Toby Mac's song. It's called Till the Day I Die. Yeah. And in a nutshell, it says he'll love the Lord and everything that he does and everywhere he goes until the day he dies. Yeah. Well, and it's a powerful song.
Oh my gosh.
It's a rocking song.
Oh my gosh. Well, and for those of you guys who don't know, yes, it absolutely is. And I never heard it before. And so Toby Mac went to Liberty University, which is a Christian school out in Virginia. And 1987, him and a couple other guys get together and they formed DC Talk. So anybody who knows, the history of contemporary Christian music, DC Talk was a pretty big deal. So these guys go on hiatus in 2000, and Toby Mac, which is now, I think, probably even a bigger name than DC Talk, he goes out on his own as a solo career, and he goes into it. And so, 2015, he pumps this song out. I believe it was his album, This Is Not a Test. And now you're talking about a guy who he's a hip hop artist, is really what he is. Right. And I mean, it's just amazing, cool hip hop. Just jamming song. And, this guy has racked up with DC Talk and his own solo career 7 Grammys. I did not know that. So 7 Grammys. And yeah. In fact, this album, I didn't know, won Contemporary Christian Album of the Year that year. So it's a big deal album. And I don't know where I was. I was sleeping.
I think this might have been the year before he lost his son.
Yeah. Yes. So amazing, amazing story in Toby Mac, altogether. But oh my gosh, what a rockin' tune. You're going to see it in the upper right-hand corner of the YouTube screen when you look at it. We're going to put a little card up there. Till the Day I Die, Toby Mac, 2015. This is not a test album. What a cool pick. I can't, I was expecting like a Zeppelin tune or, something, but, what a great tune. I appreciate it. And man, more than that, I appreciate your friendship, and thank you for coming in and talking about your business the way you have and sharing with us. And we hope you got something out of it. And guys, again, if you're out there struggling, please, please, please go get help, right?
Yes, definitely.
Ask for help. Don't do this alone. Don't continue your addiction. If you need help and you don't know where to turn, I don't have all the answers, but if you want to email me, you go to SimpleBiz360.com. My email address is on there, and we'll try to help you. We'll try to steer you and find you, something.
You're never alone. Just know that you're never, ever alone.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Mark, thank you so much. Guys, we really appreciate you tuning in. Remember, please, the AFD challenge. Mark lives it. Appreciate, focus, deliver. Man, it's the inclusion challenge. Make those customers part of your life. Show them that you care about them as much as you care about yourself, and show them that you would do the job just like you would want the job done in your house. So thank you, folks. Thank you, Mark.
Thank
we
you.
Appreciate it. God bless you guys. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.